Today, Mary becomes the Ark of the New Covenant. Today, Mary becomes the daughter of her Son. God speaks to David in the Old Testament, "What house could you build for me? Are you not ridiculous in thinking that you could build a house for me to live in? I am God. And as God, I am all-powerful. I am almighty. I'm the creator of the universe, and so I'm greater than the universe. So how on earth could you build me a house that I could fit in? How could you build me a house that I could live in? That is impossible. How small is your mind?" But today, a miracle happens. God says, "You can't build a house for me, but my eyes are drawn to the person with a humble and contrite heart. I will make my house and my home in that person's heart." So what the universe cannot hold, a humble human heart can. And so God's eyes are drawn to the heart of Mary. In her humility, Mary says, "I am the servant of the Lord. Do whatever you want with me." So not only does God make his home in Mary's heart, but also in her womb for 9 months. And therefore, Mary becomes the Ark of the New Covenant. Mary becomes the first tabernacle of the world, the tabernacle of the Most High. God fulfills his promise that he spoke to David. He said to him, "I will raise up your heir after you, sprung from your loins, and I will make his kingdom firm forever." Today, every single one of us is meant to become a tabernacle of the Most High, so that everyone who meets us will see in us and experience in us Jesus Christ. Mother Teresa of Calcutta wrote such a beautiful prayer, saying in it, "May they no longer see us, but only Jesus within inside of us." People are entitled to see Jesus in you and me. They have a right to that, because Jesus paid for our lives in a very costly and dear way by the price that he paid for us on the cross. Today and every day, God makes 100 annunciations to every one of us, to each one of us. So may we not close our hearts to his constant speaking to us. So the miracle with Mary is not that the angel Gabriel spoke to her, but that she could hear God's voice speaking through the angel. And so the invitation for you and for me is that we open our hearts so that we too can recognize the voice of God speaking to us in so many different ways every day. Because it is true, in a powerful way, he speaks to us constantly. His presence is always around us. There are a few things that we can do to increase our awareness of God's presence in our lives. In fact, I'd say it would increase our awareness 1,000 times over and draw him into our hearts. The first way that we can increase our awareness of God's presence, I believe, regards our attitude. especially keeping a humble heart. We should always refer all good to God. Give God thanks for everything. Realize everything comes from Him. Remember our littleness before God. Mary realized this, and therefore she said, God looks on me in my nothingness. To keep a humble heart, we need to rely constantly on God's forgiveness. Every one of us is in constant need of God's forgiveness. And so we can do that by actively asking for it through frequent and regular confession. Then, on the other hand, we should always be ready to offer forgiveness to those people who need it from us. There's a second way that we can increase our awareness of God's presence and His constant speaking to us every day. And I believe that is by placing our complete trust in God, by an act of complete self-surrender into God's hands, to pray fervently, Jesus, I trust in you, to give God our unconditional consent. And again, this is what Mary did. She said, I am the handmaid of the Lord. Let it be done unto me according to your word. What happens to a person who does this? God, who is love, seeks out the most intimate and secret place of your soul, as with a sharp sword. And the person, in a way, becomes a martyr of love. And we know that a martyr is a person who gives witness to Jesus Christ by completely offering their lives to Him. Maybe that's why Simeon prophesied when he said to Mary, a sword will pierce your heart, a sword will pierce your soul. So yes, Mary did not die a physical martyrdom, but surely she must have died 1,000 martyrdoms out of pure love for Jesus. It's important in the second way to give ourselves up wholeheartedly to God until the day that we die, and to do so with generous hearts, and to keep faith with love, and never to take back our offering. Because the Lord cannot do much with a person who has a feeble heart or has little faith and little love, or has not much constancy. Whereas again, if we look at the example of Mary, Mary kept her faith with love to the very end of her life. And the yes that she had spoken when Gabriel appeared to her at the beginning was not only intact throughout her life, but it was reinforced even when she stood at the foot of the cross. So even after 9 months of giving birth to Jesus, Mary remained the tabernacle of the Most High, the ark of the new covenant, because she lived her life totally in Christ, and she lived her life totally for Christ. And that is why it's true. The more we give ourselves to Mary, the more we give ourselves to Jesus. So let us follow Mary's example and do the same. Let us open our hearts to make welcome Christ into our lives.